Grandma and Grandpa were together right until the end, weren't they?
Right until the end, yeah.
How
and they
sweet.
passed 20 days away from each other. In the morning, he would kiss every one of her fingers and say, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love
Stop!
you, I love you.
I've just got goosebumps.
Yeah. Yeah. She was making a joke with me. She was like, I don't want you getting all the attention at my funeral. It's about me, okay? And I was like, Nan.
Bless her. You lost your boyfriend Chris in a car accident, wasn't it? What were the things that you told yourself at that time just to get through it?
I think the thing that got me through it was...
Miranda Kerr is one of the world's most recognisable supermodels, the founder of the globally celebrated Kora Organics, and a passionate advocate for holistic wellness. She's also a devoted mother of 4, married to Snapchat founder Evan Spiegel, and an unwavering believer in the power of gratitude. This is Miranda Kerr like you've never seen her before. Vulnerable, unfiltered, and deeply inspiring, only on Beautiful Inside by Beauty Kate.
Welcome to Beautiful Inside by Beauty Kate. I'm Sigourney Cantelo. For over 2 decades as a magazine beauty and health director and founder of Beauty Kate, I've shared stories about how to be beautiful on the outside. But recently, I've also been on my own journey to uncover what it means to be beautiful within. Inspired by my own experiences with mental health and healing, I'm meeting people who have remarkable stories to share. How have they come back from the brink of adversity and reclaimed their power? How do they continue to nurture their inner selves while creating space for joy, beauty, and well-being? This season of Beautiful Inside is brought to you by Dermalogica, a brand that I've trusted for years to keep my skin happy and healthy. When I flew to LA at the end of last year to interview their founder Jane Werland and tour their head office, I remembered why I love this brand so much. Dermalogica is all about results. It's clean, cruelty-free, and the products actually work, because they've been trusted by skin therapists around the world since 1986. Now, I try a lot of products, and whenever my skin has a hissy fit or if I'm traveling, I strip it all back and go back to Dermalogica. It's like my skin's safe space. Now, make sure you stick around for my skin diaries at the end of this episode, where I share my favorite Dermalogica products and treatments and how they've transformed my skin. If you want to take your skin health to the next level, head to dermalogica.com.au or your nearest stockist and check the show notes for a special discount code. Miranda and I first met nearly 20 years ago when her modelling career was taking off and she was just launching Kora Organics. In fact, I interviewed her for Vogue back in 2009 when Kora was still in its infancy. Watching her grow into a global wellness icon and entrepreneur has been extraordinary. Now, before we launch into the chat, I want to ask you a very quick favour. If you enjoy this episode, please hit the subscribe button. You have no idea what a difference it makes. I will continue to throw everything I have at creating this podcast, finding the best guests and having the most raw and authentic conversations. Speaking of which, let's get into this week's chat. I hope you enjoy it. Beautiful Inside acknowledges the traditional custodians of the land that this podcast is recorded on, and we pay our respects to elders past, present, and emerging.
Miranda.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you for having me in your beautiful home.
Oh, of course.
It's so nice. And 20 years, I think we've known each other nearly.
Time just goes so fast, doesn't it?
Does. And I always love talking to you because you inspired me to be a better, kinder, calmer version of myself. You know, you really are the epitome of beautiful inside and out. Today I really wanted to get a glimpse into your inner world and how you've cultivated that inner beauty throughout the years. So we'd start at the very beginning. We always do with Beautiful Inside because it sort of shapes us, our past, obviously, our childhood. So going right back to growing up in Gunnedah.
Yes.
What were some of your earliest memories of that time and how do you think they shaped who you are today?
So for me, growing up in Gunnedah and just like having that country upbringing was something that I find super grounding, and I didn't even realize until, you know, I was much older how much of an impact it would have on my life. You know, having that kind of freedom on the farm. Like I basically was raised on my grandparents' farm because my parents had me at a young age. So my mum was 18 when she had me. My dad was 21. And so my grandma and my grandpa pretty much, you know, I spent a lot of time on their farm with my cousins and my brother. And we were, you know, riding horses, climbing trees, riding motorbike, going out to the vegetable patch. My grandpa had an organic vegetable patch. I was in the kitchen cooking with my grandma. Having that kind of beautiful, loving environment environment and that kind of freedom to be outside and to be in nature is really ingrained into who I am. And my grandma, well, she just had this ability about always making people feel welcome, and it was like an open door policy, and obviously same with my parents as well. But it was just, you know, nothing was ever a problem. It was always like, come in, let's have a cup of tea, we'll talk about it. Like, people would always be coming. It was like a revolving door at my grandparents' house. Like, someone would be popping in, saying hi, having a cup of tea. My grandma would be in the kitchen, she'd be baking cakes. And we grew up in very humble beginnings, but it was so full of love. And now with my children, trying to recreate that in a very different setting, but just making sure they have that love and that kind of groundedness and that freedom to be outside and play outside and be surrounded in nature. It's kind of like, how do you do that in a city, but at the same time encourage those memories that were so important? Like, I try to bake with my kids.
Yeah.
We go on little walks every day, and we're very blessed to be surrounded in nature in Los Angeles, and just to be outside barefoot, running in the grass, those type of things that I feel are so important and so simple.
Yeah, I think you've done that. I mean, from everything I've seen and heard, you seem to really cultivate that for the kids,
Yeah.
and that love and that warmth. Harder, I guess, to have a bit of an open door policy, but
We do. We have
do?
an Australian staying with us at the moment.
Oh, yeah.
My husband laughs because he's like, he would come home and he'll be like, so who's staying the night tonight? So it is quite an open door policy, because I often have visitors. So this week and last week I had a different visitor, and then the week before that we had someone else. So it is quite an open door policy.
Yeah.
And he didn't grow up that way. So for him, it's lovely to kind of have that experience that we're very welcoming. And
Well, you've had us
we
into
are.
your home, so
Yeah.
no, it's beautiful.
Oh, and then my parents obviously taught me how important it was to have that work ethic and to really work hard for what you're passionate about and what you really believe in. And my parents have had their own companies from a young age. And
What were their businesses back then?
So they had a restaurant called Stetson Steakhouse.
Oh, cool.
My dad also had his own building company, and just seeing
Wow, that's a
their
lot.
work ethic.
At when your mum had you and your dad, so he was 21, your mum was 18, what were they doing then?
So my mum was studying accounting and my dad was a builder.
So you've always grown up seeing them working
work,
hard.
yeah, working hard. And so for me now, as a working mother, having my husband work and have his own business and I have my own business, I often have that mother guilt, but at the same time I realize there's so much value in our children seeing us follow our passions and have our own businesses, because that's what really inspired me to kind of have that belief that it was possible for me to do a similar thing. And you know, I hope my children, they obviously understand that work is a natural and necessary part of life, and are able to hopefully follow their passions and, you know, create something that they're passionate about, or work for someone else. As long as they're passionate about what they're doing, I think that's one of the most important things.
Absolutely, it's a key to happiness, isn't it? And you don't mind how much time you spend on it.
Exactly.
So when you were a teenager, you started modelling, 13, and what were some of the challenges you faced doing that so young?
So I remember my mum would come with me to most of the photo shoots, well, pretty much all of them. She would often say, like, we don't ever want this to interfere with school, so it would only ever be on school holidays or on the weekends. And then when I graduated, my first trip away was to Japan, and that was
Graduated
high school. Yeah, when I graduated
So you
high
really
school.
weren't allowed to leave and travel for modelling
Until-
until you finished school.
Yeah. And that was really great, because then I got to focus on, you know, growing up and doing all the things that you do, but at the same time,
So your mum had clear boundaries around
She did,
that.
yeah. She was like, look, you can make a little bit of money here and there if it's on the weekend or if it's during school holidays, but you really need to focus on school, get your education behind you, and then you can travel. And that's...
I'm glad she said that.
I'm glad that she
Yeah.
had that.
That's right.
She had those boundaries around that. And it was important for me to kind of have that time, not only from an education perspective, but also from the perspective of like the friendships that I've cultivated and just being a teenager.
Was it hard? I mean, did the girls get jealous? Were they a bit...
Not really. I mean, I'm still best friends with the girls that I grew up with in Canada. There's a group
That's
of us,
amazing,
like 5 of
yeah.
us, and we're still best friends, and they often come over here. Once a year we'll do like a get together and they'll come over, and
So cool.
you know, I'll make them like t-shirts like the Canada girls or
Do you?
sweatshirts or something.
Oh,
and
that's so cute.
we plan out this whole trip. And what's interesting, one time I was like, oh, I want to plan a trip, and so I like asked ChatGPT like to plan a fun trip.
Amazing.
For my friends that were coming, and like, where should we go and what should we do, and they loved it.
What did ChatGPT come up with for this trip?
Just like fun things, like go to the Hollywood sign,
Yeah.
go to like a few different restaurants, do this big hike that's around here.
Yeah.
This was like over a year ago, so I
Yeah.
can't remember like
Yeah.
fully all the things. So we did. It was
Yeah.
quite detailed, and we pick and chose from there what to do. and
Amazing.
They had a great time.
Often the deepest and the strongest parts of our character come from adversity. When you were 15, you lost your boyfriend Chris in a car accident, wasn't it? What were the things that you told yourself at that time just to get through it?
I think the thing that got me through it was obviously the love and support that I had from my family. When I kind of realized that I had to go inward and be really grateful for the moments that I had with him while we were together, and then realizing the whole fragility of life and how any of us can be taken at any moment. That's really what I felt. It just kind of led me to that spot of like finding that comfort within and the gratitude of like the time we did have together. And also it got me really spiritually seeking even on a deeper level. And it's kind of opened up that pathway for me, and just kind of getting into, I don't know, just more of that understanding that the fragility of life and the fact that being in the moment is the most powerful thing, and kind of enjoying life for what it is, and being in the moment with those you love is so important.
It is often those tragic things that really define who you are and who you become. Did you have therapy?
Lots of therapy.
Yeah.
I still have therapy.
Yeah.
Not necessarily for that anymore, but just in general. Right now I have a therapist I speak to every 2 weeks, because I think it's important to have someone with an objective opinion who understands, a lot about psychology and the way that the human brain works. And I feel like you learn so much about yourself, and I feel like I'll be continually learning about myself and growing and expanding as a person until the day I die, hopefully.
What have you learned about yourself in therapy? What are some of the things that you've learned that inclined to do, or patterns that you do? Or
I'd have to say I've learned that, at the end of the day, we're all human, and everyone has like those kind of challenging days, no matter who you are. And it's important to kind of, talking is healing, and expressing it. There's so much freedom in being able to express your feelings, and in a way that is not judgmental of anyone else, but just in a way of like letting your thoughts be expressed and not having any blame around that towards anyone else, but just like, for instance, in the way that you communicate with someone, there's a different way to get your feelings across, and it's not necessarily about them, it's about how it triggered something within you, and just kind of expressing that in a way where there's no blame or judgment. It's just something was triggered within you, and you felt the need to be able to express that. And what would feel better would be if, blah, blah, blah. And then I find that works pretty well.
yeah, when you remember to do it.
When you remember to do it and you don't get triggered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like you are so composed. Whenever I've heard you interviewed, you seem to have everything together. Like, are there ever those days, like, I can't even imagine you getting angry or having those days when everything just falls apart. Do you have that?
Yeah, especially when I haven't slept. I have 4 kids, and between breastfeeding and wanting to make sure that I'm like there for my children, like each of them, and be there for them fully, and then also be present, with everyone that I work with for my business, and my husband, obviously.
Yeah.
And my grandma taught me how important it was to make sure that you really prioritize that time with your husband.
Oh, did she?
Yeah.
What did she say about it?
Because she just said that the most important thing is don't ever take that relationship for granted, and just maintain that relationship, because the kids are going to grow up and they'll move on and they'll have their own lives and their own wives, and you will be hopefully with your husband. And it's important to continually water that garden, and you both water each other's gardens, so that you maintain that connection and you can continually grow and evolve together, ultimately as individuals, and have the same morals and values and bring out the best in each other.
Do you and Evan share the same therapist, or do you have separate ones?
We actually do.
Yeah, because I think that's a way of kind of
Maintaining like the growth, because we're on that spiritual path together where we're both growing and learning and trying to be better versions of ourselves every day.
And then you're all on the same page, and then you also have the same lingo, and you're like,
Yes.
remember that thing we learned?
Yes,
Like, it's just-
exactly. And then you actually grow together instead of growing apart and feeling like misunderstood. You are speaking that same language.
That's really good. And when
Yeah.
your partner is on the same page as you in terms of, you know, working on themselves, that really helps.
Yeah.
And your grandma and grandpa were together right until the end, weren't they?
Right until the end, yeah.
How
And they
sweet.
passed 20 days away from each other. And he would kiss, in the morning, he would kiss every one of her fingers and say, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you.
Stop! I've just got goosebumps.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's
But,
so
I
adorable.
mean, she was quite tough. She was a little like bossy towards him in the end. I was like, Nan, come
Really?
on.
Well,
And he-
just in terms of what he ate, or like
Yeah,
just everything.
Everything. She would like snap it. I was like, Nan, come on. She's like, oh, love. You know, it's fine. He can handle it. Okay. He was just like this very gentle, calm spirit. And she obviously came from the heart as well. And just, she was very wise and cheeky as well. She maintained that like cheeky character. Like literally on her deathbed, she was making jokes. And I was like, she was like, oh, love, you know.
Were you able to be there?
No, I had just been with her, and she said to me as I was leaving, because it was like around the COVID time, and she was like,
that's right.
just make sure that you don't come back for the funeral. And I was like, Nan, don't say that. And she was like, no, I realize how difficult it is with the kids and like getting into the country with COVID and all that.
Did you do her like? Did you?
Yeah,
do what
I was
she-
like, okay, well, at
that's
the
what her
end of
wish
the
was?
day, I was like, and she was making a joke with me. She was like, I don't want you getting all the attention at my funeral. It's about me, okay? And I was like, Nan.
Bless her.
So anyway, so that was just her way of saying like, look, I know you love me and I love you, and it doesn't, if I'm not here, you don't need to be here, you know. And we had that time together, 4 generations under one roof with the boys, with Hart and Miles when they were little, and Flinny, and my parents and my grandparents. So we had a good
Was that
3
in
months
Australia?
together.
You were.
Yeah, we're in
you went
Australia.
to there.
Yeah.
I'm really glad you had that time.
Yeah, it was really special because in her ideal world, we would all be on a farm together, like living together, and so she got to have that and that wish for those last months of her life. So
How beautiful. So you said that your mum having cancer in the spleen really started that whole interest in wellness for you. What was the thing that surprised you most about cancer? Was it did you learn anything that you were shocked to discover?
I just think emotionally, my mum, for her, she felt like that she was almost like a burden to the family for not being well, and no one felt like she was. But the fact that she felt like that, because she was always so used to being like on top of things and not being able to do as much as she felt she could, and all of that, that was kind of heartbreaking to see. So just being there for her and like supporting her was really important. And we learned a lot about health and wellness and alternative therapies that, you know, worked in a complementary way for her, and just learning about like the skin being the largest organ and how unnecessary chemicals are in so many household goods these days, and just kind of educating yourself on the awareness of that, and whether or not that contributed to her illness, we'll never know. But, you know, there is a lot of science out there that does say that there are potentially carcinogenic ingredients in certain products, and I just feel like our body is like a vessel, and if you're continually filling it up and up and up with unnecessary chemicals that are potentially carcinogenic, why would you do that if you have kind of an alternative not to?
Absolutely.
So it's just about making conscious choices, and also like the whole mind, body, spirit connection, and just maintaining the kind of like that attitude of gratitude for life being a gift, and just kind of brings back that whole fragility of life. And no matter who we are, inevitably all of us are going to die, and we just don't know when that moment will be. So enjoying the moment together with those you love is so important while we are here.
What were some of the therapies and things that your mum did that you thought were really interesting and you thought made a difference?
Well, I think it was more about educating ourselves as a family on those unnecessary ingredients that were on packaged goods. So we had this little book called The Chemical Maze. I think it's still available, and right now obviously you can look it up online, but back then you couldn't really
You had to have a little...
look it up online like you can now. So we had this little book.
How old were you?
I don't remember my exact age, but I was a teenager.
Okay.
And
You were at school.
I was at school. And so we had this little book, The Chemical Maze. And so we'd look on the back of any of the packaged goods we'd have at home, and it would have different numbers, you know, like
Wow.
E33, you know, whatever
Yeah,
it is.
yeah.
And it explains what that actually is. Is it a solvent? Is it humectant? Is it
So you were looking at cleaning
preservative?
products as well as food.
As food,
everything.
packaged goods, cleaning products, anything that we had in the house. And then
Skincare,
and
obviously.
skincare, because what you put on your skin. So we were just looking for a more natural approach at the time.
And there wasn't
And
much around then.
There really wasn't much out. And even when I launched Kora, the concept was in 2009, and we launched in Australia in the concept was in 2006, and we launched in 2009. And that was before clean beauty was even a thing.
You were ahead of your time.
Yeah.
So after Orlando and you split, you were a single mum.
Yes.
And you've said that you weren't sure that you would ever get married again. What was it about Evan, you know, that changed your mind?
It's interesting because we met at a dinner. It was a Louis Vuitton dinner a year after Orlando and I had separated. And I'd been like dating, because I'd been with Orlando for a very long time, almost 10 years, I think. So when we separated, I was like, I just want to be a single lady. People were asking me on dates, and I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. But I never was taking anything seriously. I was like,
No.
okay, that's, you know, I'm just not there. My mind was not there.
Did you think your standards were really high?
Mine?
Yeah. When you were
No.
dating, like, were you just like, no one's interesting?
No, not really. I
just wanted to be single.
I just was happy being single because I'd been in that relationship for a long time, and you know, after separating, you just kind of like, okay, I'm done. I was happy. I had a wonderful son. I was like, I'm good.
How old was he at that point?
He was like 2.
Okay. So
He
it was
was
a
2.
little.
It was very little. I was just single, and I was kind of like ready to mingle, and Evan was a lot more serious about things. Wasn't really looking. I was just, you know, when people would be like, want to go on a date? I'm like, okay, sure. So then Evan, I met him at this dinner, and his last name was Spiegel. I saw it on the name card next to me, and he was sat next to me, and I had a contract for Louis Vuitton, and I was working with them. He was there because he's like quite good friends with the family. So he was sitting next to me, and his name, and I was like, Spiegel, that's one of my favorite songs, Spiegel, I'm Spiegel. It's like a classical song. And I was sitting next to Glenda Bailey on my left, and next thing you know, the little candles caught on fire. Like the candles and the flowers caught on fire. And we were like trying to put the fire out, and Glenda said, you two are going to get married. And I was like,
Stop it.
I was like, what? No one has ever said that to me before.
Just the way you were interacting.
I don't know, and I just thought she was being ridiculous because that was the last thing on my mind, obviously. My head was not in that space. I wasn't even ready for a serious boyfriend, let alone like thinking about getting married.
I just wonder
And-
what it was about your interaction.
And she's a little bit like psychic. She's known about other people getting married before.
Oh, wow.
This wasn't her first time that she had
she's nailed
predicted
it.
this.
Like, how many pleasantries had you exchanged at that point?
I mean, she didn't even know what we were talking about because she was on my left, and you know at these dinners it's really quite
Was it a long
loud.
dinner? Had you been chatting for a while?
Not really. I mean, I was
like an hour
talking
into
to
it?
her, and then I was talking to him, and I just didn't. I didn't even know who he was, to be honest. I just knew his last name was Spiegel, and I was talking about this song.
Yeah.
And then I asked him what he was up to, and at the time he'd, you know, just moved out of his dad's house. He was super young. He was like 23, I think, and he was like talking about how he was renovating his house, and I said, "Oh, that's so funny. I'm renovating my house in Malibu too." So we were like talking about house renovations. And then I remember I was talking to him about like cameras and making sure I have the right cameras in the house and security things and whatnot. And he was like, "Oh, I have a really good guy. Let me give you his details." And then he gave me his number, and I was like, "Okay." Next thing you know, he left before dessert. And I was like, "See, Glenda, like he didn't even stay for dessert. Like, you think we're going to get married? Ridiculous." So I just went on with the night, and I was like, okay. And then next thing you know, a few weeks had passed, and I was in Japan on a job. I thought to myself, I wonder whatever happened to that Spiegel guy. And I wonder if he listened to that song that I had told him about, because he didn't know about it at the time when I was like, Spiegel, I'm Spiegel. I was thinking to myself, I never heard from him. Did I give him my number? Because he never texted me, and I didn't text him. So I texted him after a few, like, little drinks after work in Japan, and I was doing karaoke.
You were doing karaoke?
Yeah, I was doing karaoke, and so I texted him.
So you were with some friends?
I was with, you know, some work colleagues
Yeah.
and friends, and I was like, hey, did you ever listen to Spiegel, I'm Spiegel? And next thing you know, he calls me and I was like, no, I can't talk. I'm doing karaoke right now. I'm in Japan doing karaoke. And he was like, what? And I was like, yeah, music. That's why I was thinking of you. And he was like, oh, okay. Next thing you know, we started. He's like, okay, well, call me tomorrow after karaoke. And I was like, oh, yeah, my head.
Too many sakis.
Too many sakis. But it was a fun night. It was well worth it. And then...
Do you remember what you sang?
I was always singing something. It's like, I just love to sing in general. But anyway, we developed this kind of phone conversation from there, because I was traveling and he was traveling for work, and we got to know each other on the phone. And then literally, long story short, he says to me, oh, do you want to come over? I have a present for you or something. No, actually, no, not then. We go back to our first date, actual date. We were chatting on the phone and I said, I'm going to do yoga. This amazing lady, Guru Mukha's in town, and she's the one who brought Kundalini yoga to the West. And I was telling him how it's really good for your nervous system and how it's like incredible for your vitality. And like, he's like, oh, it sounds like I need that. So he invited himself to the yoga. And I was like, oh, okay.
Wow, that's forward.
Yeah. And I didn't realize, because I had been practicing yoga since, like Kundalini specifically, since I was like 18, 19.
Wow.
I didn't really realize that it would be completely something different to what he was used to.
Pretty wacky, yeah.
Yeah,
As far as yoga goes.
As far as yoga goes, there's a lot of chanting, there's a lot of repetitive movement and breath work. And so here I am, like he gets to the class early and like gets a seat up the front. Like if a yoga mat gets all set up the front. I'm coming from Malibu. I actually got there late.
Oh no.
So I'm up the back. And then I start giggling because I'm like, oh no, what have I put him into? And he's up the front, with his yoga mat chanting, and I'm like giggling, and he's like, I can hear you giggling at the back. Like afterwards, he told me I could hear you giggling at the class. I just get nervous. Like,
is it like egg laying breath and all these kind of crazy things?
Just some wild things. And for me, it was so normal, but for him, it was just like he'd never done yoga before, let alone Kundalini yoga. But he loved it so much that now we actually incorporate it. We haven't actually incorporated it back since the baby, but prior to the baby, we were doing it every Sunday together.
So you've got someone that comes here and does it with you?
Well, we did have someone that came to our house, and then COVID happened, so then we started doing it on Zoom, and now we haven't gotten back into it, so we probably could do either.
Yeah, amazing.
But he loves it.
That's
and
so
he's
cool.
very much into meditation
that was your
now,
first date?
thanks to me. And that was our first date, and then after that, he invited me over to his house, and he actually fell asleep on the couch. So the reason I'm telling you this
During
is
your date?
During the date. And we hadn't even kissed at this point, because he said to me, he was like, oh, what was that music from yoga the other day? And I was like, oh yeah, let me play it. And then he was like, oh, and he fell asleep with his head on my lap. And I was like, I haven't even kissed this guy. What's going on here? And he was asleep on my lap. He said to me he knew that night that he wanted to propose to me, because he's like, I've never felt that comfortable with someone before in my life, that I can just like fall asleep on their lap. And I was like, without even like really knowing me at all, he's like, oh, because he's very,
That's adorable. How was he that tight? Have he been working late?
Oh yeah, I mean, so Evan consistently from like, so the reason why he left that time, and I thought it was because of me. I was like, oh, see, the date's not the date, but the thing wasn't going so well, the dinner.
Yeah.
He left because he always wakes up at 5 o'clock every morning. So do I now.
Oh wow, okay.
And it's actually amazing, because I used to be a night owl. Like I'm naturally a night owl. Like I like wake up at night and I'm like just potter around the house, and it's my time to relax, especially when the kids are asleep. But now I realize the value of like going to sleep early and waking up early. And so in the morning I do that. I've like switched it around thanks to Evan, to be like, I'll potter around 5 a.m. in the morning when the kids are still asleep, and I get to do my routines then.
Yeah.
So anyway, he fell asleep on my lap, and then that is the couch where he actually proposed to me.
Really?
Because he was like, I knew back then when I fell asleep on your lap that I wanted to marry you, and yeah, anyway,
that
here
is
we
so
are.
adorable.
Yeah, here we are now, all these years later, 10 years later. The thing that I love so much about him is that we really complement each other. Like, he's quite cerebral and I'm very heart-centered, and together we just like really balance each other and provide a different perspective that the other one wouldn't necessarily see. We really are both wanting to grow and evolve every day and be better human beings and better parents and better, you know, do good things in the world. And and so we're growing together in the same direction, which I think is really important. And he's really emotionally supportive and amazing. I
You
feel
both
very
work
blessed.
so hard though, don't
Yeah.
you?
Yeah. And like I said, from the moment I met him, he was always up super early. But the thing that amazes me about him is he'll get home from work around like 7:30, have some dinner. Then he's still in bed by 8:30.
Wow. Gosh.
Like he literally is like, eats, showers,
And
bed.
bang.
And
And
I'm
does he
like,
fall straight
I
to
need
sleep?
more wind down time than that.
Yeah,
And he's
yeah.
like, Miranda,
Eases
why are you
out.
taking so long? And I'm like, well, I'm just, you know, doing my routine. Like, and he's like, you take so long.
Yeah. Well,
And
they
I'm
don't
like,
need
but
to do anything.
that's my beauty routine. I need to do my wind down routine after I get the kids to bed.
So you don't have any TV time?
No, we don't do TV. He's an anti-TV.
Do you
Yeah.
find that hard? Do you ever miss just vegging out and watching a show?
Every now and then he'll watch like a movie or something, but it's not his thing. He's like much rather read a book or
And what does a 5
Connect.
a.m. workout, like mornings look, do you both work out together? Do you
Well,
do
sometimes
it
we
separately?
do. Yeah.
So-
Sometimes we work out together in the gym. And he's meditating now almost
So you meditate
every day.
together?
Not anymore.
Not always. Because
We-
you're breastfeeding. And
I'm like, I get up, I pump, and by the time I like finish pumping, and then he'll be in the gym, and then I'll oftentimes go down to the gym, and then I do my routine, and he does his routine, and I am more like, I've been doing meditation for a longer time, and I kind of implement it in many different ways, whereas he's kind of set in the way he meditates and where he meditates, and he does it for a specific time, whereas I'm much more flexible. Like I can meditate for 5 minutes, or I can meditate when I'm falling asleep, or I can do my mantra in the morning, or I do like a walking meditation. I'm much more,
Yeah.
I have many more types of meditation that I like tap into.
Is
Whereas
he a 20-minute Vedic guy?
he does Kriya Yoga
TM?
meditation.
Oh, what is that?
Kriya
Okay.
Yoga meditation.
Yeah.
It's like you have to learn specifically, and he's also learned TM, which I do TM, but he really likes the Kriya Yoga meditation.
Is it like a 20-minute or longer?
20 minute,
Yeah,
yeah.
so similar. What else does your morning, you're such a great wellness advocate, you're always on to the next thing, you've always got the latest things that you do. What are some of the things that you do in the mornings now that, obviously it's hard when you've got a newborn, like
Yeah.
9 months old, sorry, Pierre.
Yeah, he's so sweet.
So cute.
So with me, like first thing in the morning, just like opening the windows, getting that sunlight, just kind of watching the sunrise is something that's kind of
Yes.
nice.
Do you do it with like a drink? What do you drink in the morning?
I just have my lemon water.
Yeah.
And then I have my celery juice. So I
Yeah, you're
have.
still doing that?
Yeah. Then of course I still do my coffee because I need it.
Yeah.
Because I'm just like, you know what? You've got to have something.
Is it a latte or what do you do? Black?
No, it's an almond coffee. If I was going to be more healthy, I would do it with coconut milk. However, I really like this specific one that's not necessarily healthy,
I'm the same.
but it just
You've
works.
gotta have little joys
You've got to
in
have
your
something.
life, right?
Yeah,
You
it's
can't be
important.
perfect.
80-20.
But I feel like you are, like very measured in everything. Have you always been a perfectionist?
Perfectionist, yes.
Even at school?
Detail orientated, quite specific about things, which actually helps when you're developing products, doing packaging, and Flynn's actually a little bit has the same traits. I can see it coming through quite strong, and I'm like, oh.
Ooh! Do you ever feel like you have to measure that? Because being a perfectionist, I know because I'm one, puts a lot of pressure. Yes.
Yeah. I try to explain to him that, you know what, I literally, when he was a child, I could see that perfectionist like coming out in him, and actually my mum's quite a perfectionist too. And so as soon as he could hold a pen, he would like draw this most incredible thing, and I'm like, wow, like his coordination and everything was just like immaculate. Then he would like rip it up if it wasn't perfect, and I was like, no.
I
So
remember you telling me this actually.
I
in one
tried
of our
to get
chats.
him to like paint and just like be abstract and get dirty and messy, and he was not into it.
Well, that's just,
It just wasn't
it's
who he
just
was.
nature, right?
It was really part of who he was. So I'm like, you know what? It's important to not be so hard on yourself and feel like everything has to be, a certain way. And I mean, I like to have like structure, but just have flexibility around that structure. And I try to explain it's important to be like a willow so that we bend with the storm instead of rigid like an oak that breaks in the storm.
Do you ever have those days where you just cannot be bothered and you like,
Yeah.
and you just don't, you like, yeah, you do?
I do.
You seem
But
so
then
disciplined.
I remind myself of my grandma, and my grandma would say, Miranda, it's important to get up, put a little bit of powder on your face, a little bit of something. Even if you're tired, just pull yourself together, put something nice on, and then you'll feel better, and then you'll get more momentum in your day that way, instead of just like slopping about. Because I remember with my first pregnancy, my grandma came and spent a lot of time with me, and I was slopping about. And she was like, Miranda, come on,
Pick up your socks.
come on, put something on a little bit, just a little bit. She's like, and she's the one that really developed my relationship with God, and she would read certain things from the Bible, like cleanliness is next to godliness, and if we respect ourselves and really take pride in ourselves and be the best version of ourselves, then that is really appreciating what God's given us.
Wow.
So it's that kind of perspective.
Yeah. Tell me about the spirituality.
Yeah, I feel like I've learned so much through my life, and I'm continually learning. David Hawkins is a really incredible author. He wrote Power vs. Force and Transcending the Levels of Consciousness, and he kind of developed that consciousness scale, like the map of consciousness, which I'm fascinated by because it talks about the different emotions that we may go through in a day, and if we are in a higher vibrational frequency of like gratitude and acceptance and love and above, then we resonate on a higher vibration than if we are in kind of like guilt and anger and resentment. Those are kind of lower vibrations. And so he talks about his story and how at first he was an atheist and didn't even have a belief in God, and then how his whole world was kind of opened up, and he was a psychologist and psychiatrist, and how he was able to really help people with this scale of consciousness and help them evolve. And I don't know, if I'm ever feeling down, I will just like Google or YouTube one of his videos, and just his energy will help uplift you. And there's a lot of humor as well in what he says. Like, he's obviously a very intelligent man, but he also has a lot of humor to him, and it just reminds you that at the end of the day, life is too short to really be taking yourself too seriously, or
I'm gonna Google him.
He's really great. And then I've read so many different books, how to talk so kids will listen, and listen so kids will talk, like parenting books.
Oh, I love that.
It's a good one.
Okay.
And it just basically, at the heart of it all, it's really about treating everyone with kindness and respect. And I actually went down quite a big, I don't know why I did, but I went down this like exploration journey of like life after death. When I was on bed rest with Pierre, I was stuck there, and I was like, I want to like learn something or not. So I was researching life after death, and my son Flynn, he has his dad Orlando who's Buddhist, so he's kind of like trying to figure it all out for himself, and he's like, of course, Mum, when people die, or the light comes, he's like, that's just the science behind what happens with your eyes and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, is it? Okay, let's look further into this. What I realized is, in some people's experience, they actually went to hell. In some people's experience, they went to heaven. And then when they were in hell, they asked for forgiveness. And these people...
No.
Yes. And so you can look it up and go down that wormhole yourself.
Oh, wow.
And I was fascinated because I showed Flynn, I was like, look, this is not just someone...
So these were testimonials
of real life people that have actually passed away that originally were atheists that then were turned towards the light and turned towards God. And I was just like, this is amazing. So I love those kind of stories, so we can learn from other people's journeys, and like little kids that had known things about what was happening in the operating room because they had like seen themselves, and they were like, oh, and that specific spatula was over there, or like all these things, and they wouldn't have known it.
So what do you Google when you want to look at this?
Life after
death
experiences, and then you will see like hundreds of them. You can go down the rabbit hole, and like it's really enlightening. And so I felt like, oh, this was interesting. There were so many different experiences, and people that obviously don't know each other said a similar kind of thing, met and experienced what it felt like in heaven, and the kind of unconditional love that they felt, and the heart-opening experience.
Yeah, I've definitely heard that.
And how there was no pain or fear or anything. So I mean,
and is that heaven? But then people have experienced hell where it's actually terrifying.
Terrifying. Some of the things that I heard happened down there.
Were they not doing?
They weren't doing the right things. And one guy was saying he wasn't necessarily a bad person, but he wasn't trying to elevate people. And like he was saying that apparently the message that he was given was to obviously treat everyone with kindness and try and like make a difference daily from everyone that you interact with. And it's like the small things that matter the most. It's not like doing these grand things, or it's not like getting a certain award for this or that, or doing all these things. It's like the little small things that we do, acts of kindness that we can do every day, make it to that heavenly place that we all want to go to.
So do you have a faith? I mean, would you say that you're Christian, like any certain type of Christianity, or
Christian?
Do you go to church now?
We pray with the kids every day. We pray before we eat our meals, and we pray together.
Was Evan religious before?
He grew up Christian, Church of England,
and things like that.
but when I really kind of brought in the St. Grace to our family, and that was really from my upbringing.
Did you just bring that in after the bed rest with Pierre?
No.
You were doing it already?
I was already doing it.
Okay.
I've always had faith thanks to my grandma. She would read the Bible to me, and I would ask her like all these questions about so many things. I've had that curious desire to kind of learn more, and I've read lots of different books on spirituality, and
That's fascinating.
Yeah, and everything with energy, really, at the end of the day as well. And we're all energetic beings, regardless if you believe in God or not. Like, there's
so many good values that you're teaching your children, and,
Yeah.
regardless of whether you're Christian or not. As a businesswoman with Kora Organics, you've had amazing success with the brand, and just quietly, I love all your products, especially the sun drops are my new favorite.
Sun drops are great, aren't they? They give
beautiful.
yourself that beautiful glow. I find myself putting it on even at night to give my skin
Oh,
that
wow.
glow, because I love the way
The
it kind of,
luminosity.
it gives you that
And the
beautiful
scrub.
skin.
I always love the turmeric scrub.
The turmeric scrubs.
Yeah.
Incredible.
What's been like one of the most surprising lessons you've learned about yourself through building that brand?
I've learned to have more boundaries and to really listen to my own intuition, because sometimes the data will say something else than what you know might not resonate with you.
Yes, or you have a feeling about something, but you're like,
And then you're like, do I go with the facts or do I go with the feeling?
and so you go with the feeling now?
Now I go more with the feeling.
Good.
And it works out better. For instance, with the turmeric scrub, people on my team were like, the data is saying this isn't really something that would be a huge success. This is not really something people are looking for in
And
their
it's like
beauty
probably
routine.
one of your top 3, or is
It is, yeah. It's definitely one of the top 3, if not, like, it's being the top. And I think it's something that's great for men and women. And I developed that product intuitively based on a need that I was looking for. And even if people are not into organics, I think this product is a product that they should have in their bathroom, because there's no other product out there that I personally know of quite like it. It's invigorating, you see instant results, it's like resurfacing with the scrub, and the fact that it's like a 2-in-1, so you can use it as a scrub or you can use it as a mask. And like the experience with the essential oils, it's so uplifting when you're using it. And that, as a mother of 4 boys, I don't really get as much sleep as I like. So in the morning I scrub my skin with that, and I'm like, everything's good in the world. Because you just kind of have that spa-like experience. And my husband also uses it every day, and he has dry skin and I have oily skin, and so it's great for all skin types. And my teenager Flynn uses it.
Yeah, you were saying
His skin is incredible, and he tells
all the
all his
hormones
friends.
coming in. Is he like?
He
starting to
does.
go
He's
through-
about to turn 14, and he's got really great skin. And so I said to him, and all his friends ask him, Flynn, what are you using? He's like, obviously Kora. Like, he's using the turmeric scrub, the foaming cleanser, and the turmeric moisturizer. I said to him, I'm going to get some little minis so he can give them all out to his friends
sweet.
for Christmas presents, because
Yeah.
it breaks my heart to see anyone struggling with their skin, because if you have that confidence in your own skin.
Have you ever had any issues with skin?
Yeah, I have. I mean, growing up, I would get the spot here, here or there, nothing crazy, but also pigmentation issues, which is why I focus on like a lot of brightening products like our Kakadu Plum Vitamin C Serum. All the turmeric range is all very brightening, and actually the plant stem cell retinol alternative is very good for the brightening.
I've actually got that, and I haven't tried it yet, but I've got that at home and it's sitting on the shelf, so I'm going to actually incorporate that.
And the results are before and after, like blowing people away.
That's
like,
so good.
If you see for yourself all of these kind of scientific tests that we do, which is amazing, because in the beginning we weren't really doing the tests because I didn't have the money to fund the testing, and now I'm like putting the money in to really show the efficacy of the product. So it's not just good for you. You don't have to compromise your health to get the results you need. And so the results are blowing people away. And it was over 80% said they got more powerful results from using our retinol alternative than traditional retinol.
That's amazing.
And you get that, and we specifically targeted like retinol fans.
Wow.
Because I wanted to know, really and truly, did they get the same experience? They said they got better results from using my plant stem cell retinol, and you get it without the redness, without the dryness, without the irritation, and without
the chemicals.
the chemicals, potentially
Yeah.
causing damage to you.
Absolutely. Well, that just blows out that whole thing that organic can't be as powerful.
Exactly, and that's what I'm trying to prove. And, I'm still a small fish in the large sea of skincare, and I really believe wholeheartedly in these products and what they're doing for people. And I think that people shouldn't have to compromise their health to get results. They should have options that are healthy for them, good for the environment, because we're a climate neutral brand as well, so we offset everything that we do. And I was one of the first to make the refill pods.
Yeah, I remember.
And then everyone copied me.
The beautiful glass jars. I love
Yeah.
those. They're like jewels. They're
They
so
are,
beautiful. Now, you have always seemed to me incredibly resilient and determined. Has there ever been a time where you've struggled with confidence?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. Like, I was quite shy as a teenager, and I didn't have that confidence in
Really?
myself. And when I remember being on one of my first photo shoots for Dolly magazine, and people were giving me compliments, and I didn't really grow up with that in a little town in Gunnedah. Like, no one really.
No.
You didn't.
No, and you wouldn't know what to say.
I was like, oh, are they like trying to make? I kept thinking to myself, are they trying to like say something nice to me so that then I look better in the photo, like so that then I have more confidence, that's what I thought in my mind. And I was like,
You didn't want to believe it, or
I didn't really believe it. And still to this day, after all that I've accomplished, I often will like doubt myself and be like, oh, am I, and I just think that's also part of being human, and just like telling yourself like, it's okay, you're doing your best, and if you can take it one step at a time, one breath at a time, then it will all be as it should. But just be gentle with yourself and be kind to yourself, because you can't be kind and gentle to anyone else unless you're kind and gentle to yourself.
That's so true. Is that something that your grandmother taught you, or therapy?
Probably a combination.
Yeah. Maybe mum.
Yeah.
What does self-care look like in your life? You mentioned you've got your evening beauty routine that you also do in the morning now. You've got your juice. Is there anything else that you do, like a non-negotiable exercise?
Yeah.
What are your favourite workouts, or do you like follow anyone, or like stream any exercise things that we can copy?
Yes, I mean, there's so many. There are so many different apps right now. There's obviously Megan Roop. She does these like quickie workouts. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, you can do these little workouts that can be like a 5-minute workout, and then you don't have any excuse. And then guess what? Once you get on there and you do the 5-minute workout, you're like, I could do another 5-minute one, and then you just...
Oh, they're fun?
They're fun.
Oh.
And then you're like, oh, I'm feeling better, because when you exercise, it releases those endorphins. And until we're actually in that state, we don't realize that we could actually feel good. We're like, oh, I don't want to exercise. But then when you actually do 5 minutes, you're like, I could do another 5.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay,
Binging.
And like, the baby's still sleeping, maybe I could do 10. Let's push it. And then you have your little hand weights. You can kind of do it anywhere. You get your yoga mat.
Amazing.
And, that's to me is really helpful. There's some things I've been incorporating now that I haven't previously, and that is like an EMS workout. So you can do this workout and you put this kind of suit on and electric muscle stimulation while you're doing a workout.
No way.
So it's 20 minutes and it's worth 2 hours. That's like a time efficient way to exercise, and I must say it really does make your muscles ache the next day, or like 3 days later.
Wow. So it's kind of like the ones where they put on your stomach and it tenses your muscles,
Yes.
but all over your body.
All over your body.
Does it hurt?
Yeah. But it's no
But it's
pain,
good
no gain. Yeah.
So you have a suit?
So I have a lady, and you can either go to her or she'll come to you, and you put on, she brings the suit, and then
What do they look like?
they wet it, so it needs to be wet, so
yes,
it goes
the
on wet
conductive
to
gel.
conduct, and then it contracts your muscles. And I must say,
You've got to do a video of this.
yeah, I've noticed an improvement. In addition to that, I found this incredible machine, and I first discovered it in Paris. Ironically, because I think it's made here in America. It's called the Vasper machine, and the Vasper machine, when we were in Paris, I would go to this place, it was like a spa, and they had this Vasper machine, and it was a 21-minute exercise. It uses cooling and compression on your arms, on your legs, and then you sit on this cooling seat. And it takes you through a HIIT workout of like pushing yourself, and it uses like compression on your arms and your legs. It is incredible, and it also helps balance the hormones. So kind of, I really feel like some people say maybe that's expensive. And what I say is like, if you invest in your health now, and maybe you have coffee at home instead of going out to the coffee shop and having coffee. Those small things, you can make small shifts to make it more affordable for you, meaning like if you find somewhere that has that machine available, you know, you can go and do a session, and then it's kind of like investing in yourself for the future.
For the future.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, it's all about strength and muscular, you know, we have to have that strength now. We're learning that with perimenopause.
Yes. I want to learn more about that.
Oh, God.
Learning now.
I know, there's so much to learn. Like I always thought it was all about Pilates and yoga, and now I'm like, now I have to do weight training as well.
Yeah, weight training as well. So Pilates and yoga for sure have been like the backbone of like exercise that I really love, because the cortisol spikes is not something that I enjoy. Like that's why I like slow and steady win the race, really, for me. Yeah, that's why sometimes I think to myself, I'm like, it's so overwhelming the amount of information that's out there on like health and wellness and what to do and what not to do, and it's like,
how do you choose? Because you're like an example to people.
Well,
how do you decide
like,
what's good?
Just like try to tune into yourself and find out what is it that works for you as the individual, and like how do you feel, because there are also so many tests that you can do these days, blood tests.
Do you do all that tracking?
Yep, I do all of that.
So you've got a health dashboard and you can see all
Not necessarily a dashboard, but I should. That's a good idea,
That's
thanks.
the next thing.
But I do have a lot of the data on what works well with my body when it comes to food, what kind of creates like a response, a negative response.
Oh, that's good.
Different
So you've done the
vegetables and fruits and whatnot. And yeah, at the moment I'm kind of interested in the lectin-free way of living. Dr. Gundry. So there's different lectins in certain foods, and he wrote a book called Gut Check, and I'm just kind of following those practices right now to see.
And you can track it.
And you can track it, and then you can also, it's all about kind of keeping the gut healthy and maintaining that kind of lowering inflammation.
Yes. Well, you're doing your celery juice and everything, so that definitely
helps. And
helps.
having a water filter in your house is a good investment.
Yeah. Is there a certain type of water filter one needs?
It's reverse osmosis.
Reverse osmosis.
Yeah.
I've got one of those. I've just got one. Yes, good. When I say mental health, you know, like in terms of what are your mental health non-negotiables? Exercise.
Celery juice.
Celery juice.
Lots of fresh, clean water. Being outside in nature. Just like meditation.
Do you do tapping or anything else? Breath work?
I do, but it's more yoga based breath work and music.
Music, yeah, beautiful.
Music. Just like having music playing in the background for the kids as well really helps lower their
cortisol levels.
And like in the nighttime I play like the nice calming piano in the background and just kind of dim the lights, and it just helps kind of transition from day to night.
Yeah. Is there any misconception about beauty or wellness that you wish people would stop believing?
Just that it's really skin deep, because it's obviously so much more, as you know. Beauty is really from within, and it's
what this whole podcast is
about.
Exactly.
And it's just really your heart and your spirit that really shines through and makes you so much more alluring and attractive. And if only people would realize that, because I've seen it. I've been with some of the most like visually beautiful people in the world, but unless they actually have a beautiful heart, it's not really attractive to me personally. And it's, you know, disappointing if they're not working on their inner self as much as they are on their outer self.
I couldn't agree more. Thank you. We've got the Sacred Six still to go.
Oh, yes.
Would you mind talking me through your Sacred Six?
I'll bring them over.
Oh, great.
Yeah. Beautiful interview.
Oh,
Thank you.
Thank you. So these are the spectacles.
Oh my goodness,
So
I haven't seen these.
Evan created this, so not only are they just like video, it's you can do so much like AI over the world.
Oh my goodness.
So let's see here, hold on. So my boys can literally build Lego from going like this, and literally can sit here and build Lego. And that
Pretending, like as in like.
No, it's like they can see
a Lego
this. They see this table, and then on top of this table, they can choose and move with their finger pinch to make Lego. And they can, and my other son, who's an artist, Flynn, he can literally draw like a big sculpture or whatever he wants to in this world. Or you can have a little pet that follows you around. You can play a game. You can play chess. We could sit here and play chess with this.
That's incredible.
So that's Spectacles by Snapchat.
They're out?
They have like a developer program out right now.
Go.
I've been using them in the kids, so they're a little bit dirty.
That's all right.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
But so you
they're a
can
bit big
see,
for me. They're
you
full
can
of my
see
face.
the world, and
This is amazing.
yeah, it's amazing now.
Okay.
So my non-negotiables are noni juice.
Yeah.
This is the original noni that I have been drinking since I was a teenager.
No.
Yeah.
That's
So
it.
here's your noni juice. This is the one.
And they still exist.
Superfruit
Yep.
still exists.
I'm sure they do
and
very well probably now, thanks to
Yeah.
you. I
And
hope
they're
I hope
noni.
you've got some shares in the company.
I don't, but I really believe that the noni is like one of the keys to my wellness. And it's really something that I've done consistently in my life for the last, 30 years.
Yeah, you have.
Yep.
You really have. I remember you talking about it right at the beginning.
Yep. So that's the noni, and you know, I give it to the boys. Flynn's really the only one that's quite used to it now.
Yeah, well, it tastes a bit funny, doesn't it?
It does.
It's quite bitter.
It is, but
Okay.
I like it personally.
Do you mix it with anything? No, just
No,
shoot it
but
back.
you can mix it with apple juice.
Oh,
Like
okay.
it makes it more palatable.
Okay.
And of course the turmeric brightening and exfoliating
Oh,
scrub
I
that we
love
were
it.
talking
Yeah.
about earlier. And I really think this is great for men and women. It's a great gift for someone. We have like little minis that could be a good stocking stuffer for Christmas
Great.
or
Yeah, I've seen those.
whatnot. And it doesn't matter what skin type you have because it's all skin types. It doesn't matter if you're a man or woman or even a teenager. You really will get a lot out of this
Works for
scrub.
everybody.
Works for everybody. Essential oils are incredible, and this is a specific blend that a friend of mine made for me, and it's a Vata blend.
Oh my gosh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, and so I
So
put
you're
this
Vata
on. Yeah,
and Ayurveda.
I've got a Vata Pitta, so this is like helps with that.
Stunning. Okay.
Yeah. For dry body brushing,
Yeah.
I would
Are
say
you religious with that?
I am every morning before the shower.
Gosh, you're good.
Just like it really helps boost circulation, and also it kind of helps like reset. Like you just feel like if anything's bugging you or like stressing you out, you just kind of like
So it's
brush
mechanical.
it off.
Yeah, brush it off.
Brush it off. Brush it off. So circulation,
Brush
I
that
think.
person off me.
Yeah, I think that circulation is
Yeah.
key for all of us, our organs to function really well. And I know we didn't touch on it, but hyperbaric chambers kind of
yes.
very great for the body.
Another thing you love.
Another thing that
So do you have
I've been
one?
in for, no, I don't have one. Evan will not let me get one.
Oh really? Surely.
No, it could be dangerous.
Oh,
So
okay.
going to a professional, like a medical
You
hyperbaric
need to know
chamber,
how to
is
do it.
better and safer. Because you
That's
kind of like
understandable.
go deep, like pressurized, and then the oxygen is like going throughout your whole. So I love oxygen therapy and also neurofeedback to kind of balance the brain
wow.
as well.
How many times do you do those things?
Like once a week if I'm in my routine.
So you go somewhere nearby.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Oh yeah, the Snapchat spectacles. I think these are fun
Yeah,
because
yeah,
it's
they're very
a
cool.
great thing for the whole family.
Yeah.
And you can do so many things. It doesn't take you out of the real world. So
Yeah, so you can still see everything and hear everyone.
so it keeps you in the real world, and you can have conversations, and you can both be playing. And this is like one of their first versions, but you know they have many iterations coming, and the technology is incredible. And
So
yeah, I'm
exciting.
proud of my husband for that.
So cool.
Yoga for sure, and meditation is something that I really is a non-negotiable for me. It's been something I fall back on, and I'd say prayer as well. So just the power of prayer, just like for instance, as I was saying, simple prayers like before we eat, like thank you so much for this food. Please bless everyone who's contributed to putting this food on our table. Please be with anyone who needs your guidance or love or support right now. Thank you for all you do for us and our family. Please keep us all safe, happy and healthy. We love you, God. Thank you, God. Amen. Like something so simple like that.
So it's a combination of gratitude, but also, I mean, asking for
help
things that will
others,
help the
other- and
community
help-
and your loved
Yeah,
ones.
yeah. Keep everyone safe and happy and healthy. Like,
Yeah. And your affirmations, is that kind of similar?
yeah, on the back of every product, there's a positive word
Yeah, I
of
love
affirmation,
that.
just to kind of
Raise the
remind us
vibration.
and raise the vibration, because words are powerful, and every thought we think has an effect on us. And if we choose more elevated thoughts, then we'll have a more elevated experience.
Amazing. Well, you are a walking, talking example of inner beauty. So thank you. Thank you for having us, and thank you for your time
Thanks for
today.
being here. Appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. Oh, that was beautiful.
Yay.
Thank you.
As we close, we want to acknowledge the ongoing impact of LA wildfires. If you'd like to help, we've included links in the show notes where you can donate and make a difference. Thank you for tuning in, and we hope this episode brings you a sense of connection and hope during these challenging times. So welcome to my Skin Diaries. Thanks to our season sponsor for season 4, Dermalogica. So as I mentioned, I've been a Dermalogica fan for many, many years. It's very reliable, trustworthy, credible. And I think given their association with the International Dermal Institute, having that education as part of their brand means that it's very results driven. You know that the ingredients that they include are only going to be things that are tested and efficacious. So when I found out I was partnering with Dermalogica and heading to LA to tour their head office, I was very excited. In the lead up to the trip, I went and had a lumen fusion treatment, which is an incredible treatment for radiance. It's great for the same day. If you've got an event on, you can actually go out that night after the treatment. They've got a beautiful red light, so you end up with this beautiful glow. This was perfect because I went straight into 2 months of crazy travel. I went to Vietnam, LA, and India in the space of a couple of months. And I decided it would be a perfect time to test out everything that Dermalogica offered. So after my treatment, I took a whole lot of minis, and this was my lab sample, my much loved, banged up lab sample. The multivitamin power recovery cream is a game changer. The smell of it is just so comforting. I would just slather this on post-flight. I even took it on the plane because it's 50 ml, so I was able to take it on the plane. I would slather it on during the flight. I'd slather it on when I got off. And Mum, who came on a couple of the trips with me as my producer, actually stole it from me because it was that good. I'd get it off her. I'm like, have you got my cream? This is the actual packaging. It's definitely one of my new favourite products in my arsenal. The other products I used on the road, special cleansing gel, this antioxidant Hydra Mist is amazing when you're flying. And the Sound Sleep Cocoon is amazing as well. So the Dermalogica head office tour was amazing. It's also the headquarters of the International Dermal Institute. So it's huge and huge high ceilings. They have these incredible lecture theatres and prac rooms, and I even did a tour of the labs, the factory. I met a guy who's been working there for something like 30 years. He was amazing. I got to see every aspect of the business, and it really is a juggernaut. It's amazing. The main highlight, though, was sitting down with Jane Werwand. She is a powerhouse. She is just... You'll see what I mean. The interview's coming up soon, so just wait. She is just a truly beautiful human. And then after the interview, I got to see her take to the stage, and just seeing the love and admiration that all the students had for her and her staff, you can really see why the business has been so successful for so long. And I can't wait to see what they have planned next. In fact, I know what they have planned next. I'm in episode 2 of my Skin Diaries. I'll be going for exosomes treatment. So I'll report back on exactly what that is. My skin is in very good nick given the amount of travel that I did. Very easily put it down to the multivitamin power recovery cream. So it's a blend of A, C, E, provitamin B5, niacinamide, vitamin F, and peptides. So it's got all the good stuff, and it's this incredibly unctuous, indulgent formulation that is not too greasy, not too heavy, not too light. It's like the Goldilocks of creams. So stay tuned for my next episode when I'll try the treatment, and I look forward to reporting back and letting you know how it goes. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Beautiful Inside. If you enjoyed this, the best thing you can do is share it with a friend, leave a review, or give us a rating.